about to show you is my technique, but there's so many other ways and some other sophisticated ways that we could add a shadow to this giraffe. I found this to be fairly simple, but before we do that, we need to start reorganizing these layers. So I'm going to actually click on my moon, hold my shift, and click on landscape 1 and group it. I'm going to name this landscape because everything to deal with the sky and the background is all in this folder. Alright, so let's go ahead and call this giraffe 1. And I'm going to add an adjustment layer. I want to add a brightness and contrast. And looking at the image and understanding the grass and the giraffe, I want to go ahead and focus on creating some shadows, and with a layer mask remove some of the shadows to reveal some of the highlights. So I am now going to decrease my brightness, paying attention to those darker areas. Okay, the sky's up here, we are going to get a little bit of a highlight along the back, but that means that most of the bottom of this giraffe is going to be dark. So I'm lowering the brightness. Okay, contrast I'm not going to worry about, and I'm going to clip mask it into that giraffe. Now the giraffe is not correct. It's too dark. So with my layer mask, with my brush, I'm going to use a soft round at 100%. I'm going to come in here and brush softly across the areas of the giraffe that I think are going to be highlighted the most. So I'm keeping the shadow on the giraffe where the light would be blocked. All right, that looks good. Good. And I also want to point out, before we did the giraffe, we really needed to focus on the grass too and some of the shadows that were going on. So let's go back to our landscape and let's go to the landscape 2. Let's make that same exact adjustment, and this time we're going to lower the brightness. And with our layer mask, I'm going to clip mask that. Oops, clip mask. Okay, I'm going to take my brush with the black on and I'm going to go through and lighten up some of those areas. So there'll be kind of a gradual change. There'll be a little bit of a shadow on the grass. And if I take too much away, I can grab my white and bring back. The other thing is I can also, since I'm still in the adjustment layer, I can go ahead and still adjust the brightness and the darkness. So the giraffe is pretty light right here, so that means the grass is going to be fairly light. So it's going to go from a gradual light to dark. So I'm just paying attention to that. Okay, this is starting to look more realistic. I have a little bit of whiteness here, so let me just make sure that's not, it is, it's part of the moon, so let's get rid of that. Okay, I am good on the grass. I can continue with my giraffe. Now realistically, if the sun is coming from the right hand side and it's kind of peeking over my giraffe, I'm going to have a cast shadow that falls on the ground. So we need to make sure that that cast shadow is showing here. I'm going to need to make a copy, so Command J, of my giraffe, and I'm going to put it behind because the cast shadow technically would be tucked behind. This, for some reason, this adjustment unsnaps, so I am going to go ahead and create clipping mask again so that it goes back. And I'm going to transform my copy, so Command T, and with your Command key held down, I want you to touch the middle top anchor point, and I want you to lay your giraffe down on the ground. Okay? It's about 2 times the size of the giraffe. Whoops, I accidentally let go of my command key too early. Okay, so let go of the mouse first, then the command key. Okay, this doesn't look very good. It's not ready. I have to move his feet. So I've got to try to align these feet as best I can. Okay, sometimes we have to use the puppet warp for this, where I have to have specific anchor points to drag them to these spots, but I was able to actually keep the alignment pretty well done, so I'm happy with that. I am seeing a line right here. So I'm going to go back to my layer mask, and with my black on, I'm going to take that away. Okay. Now we're going to lock this. So going over here to this little square, we're going to lock it. We're going to grab the gradient tool, and I'm going to set my gradient by clicking on the box. And I should mention you should be in the 4th one, so 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to click on this box, and I don't want this to be white. So if yours is white, go ahead and double click on it and change it to a medium gray. So we should be going from black. Actually, it's going to be going from gray to black as we lay it out. Okay, so these are the colors that, or shades that you should have on your gradient. Click OK. With that tool on, I'm going to go starting off the artboard and stretch a diagonal line, making sure that this is locked. That's really key to this. If it's not locked, then it won't work. So let's try that again. Okay, what just happened was I laid down the gradient, but I was in my layer mask. I wasn't in the actual copy of the giraffe. So when you are laying your gradient down, make sure you go from layer mask to the picture of the giraffe and have it locked, and then it'll lay down. Okay, this is not natural, definitely not natural. It's way too harsh. So I'm going to go up to filter, and I'm going to add a Gaussian blur. This can be too blurry, so just go slowly, a little bit at a time. I'm trying to figure out, oh, I know why. You need to unlock the layer because it's locked, so it's not letting me edit. So go ahead and unlock it. Go up to filter, sorry about that, and go to Gaussian blur. So I had mentioned it can get really blurry, so just be careful. And I'm also going to change the opacity so it's not quite as harsh. And I can come into my layer mask and I can grab a super hazy brush with a very low opacity. And I can kind of take away some of that gray. Now, if it doesn't work out, if the gray is too gray right here, which happened to be the case for mine, you can go ahead and just start over. So I'm going to come back here. Okay, and reapply that gradient. Okay, so let's do this again. I'm going to make sure I'm in here. Actually, yes, and I'm going to lock my layer. I'm going to grab my gradient tool again, and I'm going to stretch that gray out a little bit farther so it's not so much on the giraffe. Yes, that's what I want. I'm going to unlock that layer, make sure I'm in my original picture, come up to filter and do my Gaussian blur again, and just increase it until it looks kind of blurred. Okay, that's looking good. And then you can decrease the opacity slightly. Okay, I like that. We are almost done. We have some editing left to do to the other giraffe. That's going to be in part 4, and we're going to be done.